take a quick stroll through r/grad admissions and you'll see two types of posts right now. Just got my first interview. Just got an email interview invite to Weill Cornell Neuroscience. Cornell interview received. Good luck, everybody. Harvard BPS is done sending invitations. I'm pretty much depressed at this point. It's 4 a.m. I couldn't sleep thinking about how I might not receive an email today. Interview season is a whole roller coaster full of emotions. One moment you think you're okay and you're dealing with the gut-wrenching anxiety fairly well. And then you see a post on Grad Cafe where an applicant with a master's, 4.0 GPA, 3.5 years of full-time research experience, and 4 publications with a first authorship gets rejected from Brown University. You look at your own application in comparison and think, wow, I definitely have no hope of getting in then. But then you see another post with considerably less experience get an interview at a top school and your eyebrow starts to raise a little bit. Confusion sets in and you question if the posts on Grad Cafe or Reddit are even legit. And then you shut down your computer in frustration only to lurk again the next day. This is the toxic cycle of interview season, a place where dreams go to die and we are just husks of humans now. I guess it's the first rung of hell that we masochists have chosen in this path of higher education. At least they have warm hot chocolate, although this is warm water. Today I shall try and most likely fail to fully explain the grad school interview process. Just search through Google and you'll find article after article and even a science paper teaching you how to ace your PhD interview. Check out the description below. I did compile a list of articles and posts that I found particularly helpful. You'll find hundreds of prospective questions that are apparently a must to prepare, but is that really the most important information for all of you masters or PhD hopefuls? Hopefully, I'll convince you guys that there's a few other considerations that may have slipped through the cracks. But why am I qualified to give this unsolicited advice? Honestly, I'm probably not qualified, but in my application cycle, I did apply to 5 schools, got interviews at 3 schools, and got 3 acceptances. So I would hope that I know how to interview at least somewhat effectively. You guys can be the judge of that though. Feel free to roast my advice in the comments. Interviews. How do we even begin this conversation? Well, first off, let's go through some broad stats. My interview experience was during COVID, so my programs did Zoom interviews, which isn't the most applicable right now, but I did help during recruitment season this year, so that'll be a better representation of what it may be like for you. My year, 90 people were invited to Zoom interviews across 2 weekends, and around 20 to 30 were accepted, and 16 matriculated in my cohort. The following year, 50 to 60 were invited for the first Zoom interview, and around 30 to 40 were invited to the in-person interview. According to these numbers, you are likely of acceptance after interviewing may be a bit more than 50%. A little snag in these numbers is that you as an applicant don't know how large the cohort is for each program. One school could have 30 students, another school could have 15, and another program in the same school could have 2 in their new cohort. If there were budget cuts, the new matriculating class could be 3 spots fewer than in previous years. All of this is speculation, but one thing that you can be sure of is that if you received an interview, the school is extremely interested in you as a prospective student. They wouldn't be spending tons of money on accommodations, food, social events if they didn't think that you could succeed in the program. So what are these schools looking for in their students? How do they even judge between candidates when everyone, honestly, is equally qualified at this point? You already passed the minimum requirements check on the application. Now you need to pass the vibe check. During the entire 3 days, 2 nights, you'll be judged based on how well you interact with program directors, program admin, current PhD students, faculty members. Your interview is the entire weekend, not just when you sit across from a professor that's grilling you about your research. The program needs to be confident that your research interests align with multiple professors in the program because, there's always going to be that one toxic PI sprinkled in, and they need to be confident that you can be a contributing member to the overall school community. You'll be able to thrive both scientifically and socially. The individual interviews with professors will determine your scientific competence, while these other social events will help you see how well you fit with the broader PhD community. Now, there is an interesting wrinkle throughout this process, but luckily it's more in the applicant's favor at least. Yes, the school is comparing you to the other interviewees. And yes, they're trying to see who's the best fit, but they're also trying to recruit you. When you interview at schools, the programs programs know that most, if not all, of these applicants are also getting interviews at other programs. So they're gonna work really, really hard to convince you that their program is the best. So one thing to consider while you are interviewing is, does the school fit what I want out of a PhD program? Can they offer me the things that I need to succeed? Do I like the people in my interview weekend that could potentially be in my cohort? Do I like the city, and can I see myself living there for the next 5 to 7 years? Hopefully, by acknowledging that these interview weekends are also a way for you to rank your top schools, it'll ease the nerves that you're probably feeling, which will let you perform better. Okay, stats and fit is done, kinda. How about a general timeline or a list of possible events that you'll have during your interview weekend? And again, this will be school specific, but in all the interviews that I've been in, they've had similar schedules. You'll probably be paired up with a current student to ask questions. For me, they took me to all of the events and to all of my interviews since Columbia is spread over 3 separate campuses. They'll do a campus tour, convince you that you can totally live off of your stipend in X, Y, and Z high cost of living area and maybe save a few dollars each month because the housing is totally subsidized if you can actually get into school housing. Then you'll probably have a casual dinner with some other interviewees and maybe some current students. The following day will probably be interview day. They'll have some informational sessions, tell you the specifics about a program, and give you a chance to ask questions. And honestly, take advantage of this time because you can truly see if this program is a match for what you want to get out of a PhD program. For me, my program director sat with us for an hour over breakfast, and they answered every single logistical or program question that we had. Then current students sat with us for another hour to answer any questions that we had about living in New York, or tax questions, or do you actually like this program or are you just faking it? And it was actually one of the reasons why I ended up choosing Columbia. Then comes the traditional interview. I had 30-minute chats with 5 different professors that somewhat aligned with my research interests. Scheduling professors is really hard to do, so you'll most likely have an interview with someone that is adjacent to your field instead of a leader of your field. My area of study is Alzheimer's disease, but I interviewed with a professor that studied ALS. Another did work on autism. And even though I haven't worked in all of these fields, the underlying commonality is neurodegeneration, and I can talk about that. So this is the bit that you'll have to prep for the most during interview weekend. And contrary to popular belief, a successful PhD interview is a conversation, not a grilling session. Your CV lists all of the incredible research that you've ever done. It lists your skills, techniques, programs, etc. All of the tangible things that encompass the successful scientist that you are. But just because you know how to perform a Western blot or do CRISPR screening or know 3 programming languages or have published 4 papers, that doesn't mean you actually know the science. These professors are trying to see your professionalism and mastery in your research area. Now, this doesn't mean that they expect you to be an expert, or else why would you pursue the PhD? But can you have an exciting conversation about your research to an individual that may not know your field-specific jargon? Can you have an exciting conversation about their own research, especially if it's in a completely different area of study? You are presenting a cohesive narrative of your work, not a checklist of every single project that you've ever worked on. And this ability to condense complicated science into simple stories that change the field is what separates an average interview from an amazing interview. Now it's time for a PhD interview secret. You can memorize all of the possible interview questions found in these grad school Reddit posts or blog posts, but people know when you're reading off a script during the interview. In my humble opinion, it's better to really know your research instead of memorizing 100 questions. But how do you clearly and cohesively communicate your research during interviews? Can you give a 1-minute elevator pitch to explain the following questions? What are the limitations of your field? What does the literature say? What question did you develop from those limitations? How did you go about answering those questions? How does your answer drive the field forward? For an example with my own research, here's how I could hypothetically explain my work in Alzheimer's disease. During my time in X, Y, and Z lab, I was exploring the relationship between pathological amyloid beta and tau burden, which is currently being studied in isolation despite clear links in patient diagnosis. I read an interesting paper that proposed a potential cooperative relationship, and thus I wanted to explore whether or not amyloid beta stabilized pathologically relevant conformations of tau to increase neuronal loss. I developed transgenic models that introduced amyloid beta plaques, tau neurofibrillary tangles, and also co-transgenic mice, including both of these pathological features, to measure alterations in tau isoforms, tau propagation between neurons, and tau stability to degradation. I did immunohistochemistry to also identify changes in neuroinflammation. We found that amyloid beta in fact stabilizes tau aggregates to adopt more degradation-resistant conformers, which could indicate a cooperative mechanism between amyloid beta and tau, which is something that has never been previously shown. Even if my interviewees don't know the specifics of Alzheimer's pathology, I've presented my work with a clear scientific rationale that can be followed. And I would also explain what tau is and what amyloid beta is before going on the rest of that spiel. But I stated the problem, I stated my solution, and I stated my results and how it changed the field. Professors will probably ask you to expand upon certain areas, but if you prepare with these questions in mind, you're giving your interviewer a really nice narrative of your work. And ultimately, writing papers also follows this framework, so they can see that you're already thinking about your research in relation to future papers, which shows a level of professionalism that isn't present in most candidates. If you're able to tie in your research with something that these professors have done in their own work, then that's a huge plus. I would recommend reading through a few papers from each of your interviewers and finding a way to mention something that they've done or a question that you had while reading their work. Even if it's just a quick comment saying how cool this technique was or how interesting this hypothesis was in this one paper. Professors love talking about their own research, and if you can talk about a topic that, even though you're not familiar with it, you can have a good conversation about it, that also shows mastery and adaptability, even if you're wrong about the little specifics. In brief, how do you prepare for your interviews? Know your research and ask professors about their own research. Have a fruitful conversation with them, because who knows, maybe you'll want to rotate with them in the future. Professors aren't as scary as many may think, and okay, yeah, there definitely are some really scary professors, but you wouldn't want to be working with them if they freak you out that much. But before you enter the room, take a deep breath and remember that this professor just wants to chat with you. And luckily, you're chatting about something that you're incredibly passionate about and very well versed in. So hopefully that takes some of the pressure off of your shoulders. After your interviews, you'll probably have a final social event where all the professors and students and interviewees just hang out and chat. And this is a really great time to let loose, relax, and get a feel for the program. Talk to everyone and see if you can envision yourself here. These people will be your colleagues at minimum for the next 5 to 7 years, if not for the rest of your scientific career. Have fun, but remember that you still need to present yourself well. At the end of the weekend, current students in my program were actually asked if any interviewee was problematic, either in conduct or in speech. So be kind, be humble, get to know people, have a good time, but don't go too crazy. Now, finally, for a quick dress code check, whenever you're going to an event that's just other students, feel free to dress casually. Us PhD students pretty much live in sweats, so it's totally fine to stroll up in jeans and a t-shirt if you want. But dress business casual if there's any event where you interact with anyone that's not a student. Program admin, program directors, professors during your traditional interview portion where you're getting grilled by professors, although I hope that actually doesn't happen to you, or at the final all-program social events, you should dress business casual. It doesn't have to be anything super fancy, like you don't need to wear a blazer or a 3-piece suit, but you want to present yourself in the best light possible. And having a pressed shirt and casual slacks, or even anything besides jeans, goes a really long way. And it shows that you care, and it shows that you can represent the program well when you attend conferences or meet with collaborators from other schools or anything that's public facing. Okay, I think that's it, or at least I hope that's it. But if you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, share, and subscribe, and let me know in the comments if I missed anything or if you guys have any other tips for your fellow interviewees. Until next time, be kind to yourself and remember to eat well and drink some water, because we're all perpetually dehydrated as lab rats.